Being powerful is a bit like being ladylike. So if you have to say you are, you probably ain't. So I think I like America most of all on the days when people are not going around shouting, USA, USA, we're number one, we're the greatest. I prefer the days when they don't do that, when they're probably most to be admired.
What is it that makes us boast about our greatness and belittle others? What is it that keeps us from ascending beyond the immediate? I cannot help but wonder what Hitchens would say today. It is a thought that somewhat haunts me as I stumble through communicating a similar belief of many before me, that we are brothers and sisters of the human race, with core values shared among us, which are hidden in the labels and divisions we create.
And if you understand freedom, it's based on tolerance and nonviolence. So if it's tolerance, it should be bringing all kinds of people together, and that's following our Constitution. We shouldn't be fighting among ourselves, because we shouldn't be fighting in Washington. If we all take the same oath of office, where does the fight come from? Somebody is messing up somewhere.
Libertarians proclaim reducing government interference because all Americans should be free to live their lives and pursue their interests as they see fit, as long as they do no harm to another. That peaceful, honest people should decide for themselves how to live their lives without fear of criminal penalties, and that the government's responsibility, if any, should be protecting its citizens from force and fraud.
The ruling class has always taught and trained you to believe it to be your patriotic duty to go to war and to have yourself slaughtered at their command.
The socialist soapbox calls for a classless society with communal ownership and perspective that is driven to enhance freedom, justice, and solidarity towards a goal of peace. Peace, of course, includes police abolishment, which I must say is highly unlikely to ever be a reality, but it is the only ethical goal.
Right? Forget about effectiveness or not effectiveness. You don't get to confiscate my money just because you and your friends vote to take it.
The deliberate pragmatism of conservative thought espouses the value of moral order and building off the best of the past with long-term goals that are achieved mainly through community and family with an ideally restrained and fiscally prudent government.
People are born to be free, and that their basic instinct is the desire to free themselves from coercion, authority, and oppression.
The ideal liberal is said to believe in that natural goodness of human beings and the intrinsic value of individual liberty, that to have an honorable society, we must have moral equality across sex, race, birth origin, religion, gender, class, wealth, etc., which is achieved through nonviolent modifications of institutions.
With certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
America, America, America. Cannot help but believe we have steered ourselves quite off course. We are now reading Chapter 2 of Crimes and Punishments, Free Will and Autonomy. We are responsible for the influence we project on the others around us because it literally changes them. I present a few arguments here about how the perspective we take about free will matters considerably to providing a moral course of action. What is better for us is something we are constantly arguing about, whether it is with doctors or family. While those arguments are going to continue, consistent foundations are beginning to show themselves. Life is about experiences and the unique outcome that each of us are because of the unique experiences that each of us provides to the whole. Two quick and easy reads on this are By Experiences, Not Things by James Hamblin in The Atlantic, which reminds us to live in anticipation, gathering stories and memories as research builds on the vogue mantra of behavioral economics. The other is The Psychology of Personalization, Why We Crave Customized Experiences, a blog by Eric Davaney. No matter the angle we approach the issue, it appears that we are the most significant influencers on the happiness of others, and they on our quality of life. Right after we go over a little more about what the Crimes and Punishment essays are, we will get to Chapter 2, Free Will and Autonomy. Like most cops, the emotions felt when pinning the badge on my uniform for the first time was a source of immense pride, but also a shocking reality to the complication of performing a duty under the weight of such power and responsibility. The callousness of veterans cops and the braggadocious masculinity of the streets are immature expressions of the generations of trauma enacted on our brothers and sisters from a system oppressing us all. My internal fights with policing, whistleblowing, scholarly endeavors, reform efforts, and politics have failed in exhausting fashion.
And what I'm trying to say is that we are looking at people who are doing nothing new, and if we focus on the actions, then we can fix the things for next time, because when you focus on people, we end up thinking we can chop the head off, they put a new person in and something will change. But if we don't focus on the methodologies and the institutions, then we will be totally missing
somebody, put them in a prison cell, do the paperwork, go back out and do it again. So what we really need is to change the incentives and disincentives so that no matter what the role, we're still going towards that objective that actually serves you.
More occupation, more vehicles, if your answer continues to be violent, because we have to understand that everything about policing is inherently violent. I have come in there with authority and told you what you will do.
I believe one of the reasons behind my struggles is that I had not laid out a consistent and intertwined philosophy of what in the hell I was trying to say. For the philosophical foundations of crime and punishment to be ushered into the 21st century, a reimagination of our institutions is necessary. Building off the famous works of Cesar Beccaria, I construct those pathways to the Enlightenment period of justice. Free will, sanctuary cities, gun control, eyewitness testimony, incarceration, and more must all work together for a prosperous society. Learning these lessons has been a brutal journey for me, and it is unlikely to be an easy one for you, but it is one that we owe to the future, to make a safer world for our children to enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Crimes and Punishments in the 21st Century by yours truly, Michael Wood, is most conveniently ordered from the Evil Empire Amazon, because we are in that 21st century after all. For the enhanced and expanded audiobook, check out Audible. In the meantime, the philosophical half of Crime and Punishments, all 40-some chapters and then some, is being presented as a free podcast from iMember Media at imembermedia.com and will be available on all major platforms and direct from the publisher. Pause the video or see the links in the notes and prepare for the challenge and adventure of self-critical thought. Chapter 2: Free Will and Autonomy. Humans are biological vessels, alleged to possess freedom and execute their own autonomous will. People seem free to choose how they will live and what they will do. But are they? Who is free and whose will is being carried out are necessary questions when exploring why we do the things humans do. The ongoing scientific process has led to the prevalent theory which says that the subconscious mind makes decisions before the conscious is aware. In much the way education philosophies or the muscle memory of an athlete works from training, outside influences can program a response into the subconscious that will operate outside of one's conscious choice. The conscious mind does not determine the execution of an action. It is a reflex triggered by accumulated experiences acting outside of conscious supervision. Going beyond the biological argument, there is an argument of logic. The biology of one's DNA is the starting point. From the DNA point forward, the individual becomes an equation of their own biological base plus the experiences of the environment. An example of this is found on our own skin. Fingerprints are formed in the womb from the movements between mother and child. Identical twins do not have the same fingerprints because the movements affected them each from different perspectives. When those twins arrive in the world, the environment has already made them demonstrably distinct despite an identical biological base. If one began with the same organic base and experienced the exact same environment in the womb, then the fingerprints would also be duplicated. Identical prints have never been discovered, though they are theoretically possible and mathematically assured. Our lives are a legible imprint of our experiences in much the same way as fingerprints. The marks of experience left on our lives are complicated and hard to isolate as standalone influences, but we remain the sum of our environment, experiences, and biological instructions. Most of us could have had dramatically different results with minor changes to our experiences, or if we had any of the experiences of others. Starting with the exact same DNA and adding the identical experiences will produce multiple people who are indistinguishable from one another as distinct versions of you. To the objective observer, every copy of you would be precisely the same by every measure. The distinction between various copies of yourself would be only an internal illusion of consciousness within the social construct. When we attempt to navigate causes and influences on human behavior, one of our ultimate imperatives should be the understanding that only small differences created by chance and luck separate the accuser and the accused. An additional layer of rationale against free will is that choices for human beings are like multiple choice test decisions. The test questions are the events of life thrown in front of us. The experiences of life provide us with the availability of multiple choice options. If one is required to answer which book is the best book correctly, it must be accepted that this simple question is infinitely complex. To begin to have an opinion on which book is the best, the reading of books must be encouraged and books must be available. Both access and ability have incalculable variables to attainment. Whatever makes it through becomes the books which inform and are available for selection on one's multiple choice test. The rest of the factors of life prioritize what is meant by best. To begin to judge one's selection on the multiple choice test, what those in judgment must first determine is if the judge's best is even available on the list of the accused. If not, then there is no way to morally punish that which was not a feasible option. If the option is present, then the only reasonable examination is into the experiences which led to the different prioritization of what is best. These truths establish the base framework to guide our societal decisions on societal contract violations, into education, and the investigation of causal experiences and environments. Addictions are an additional portal into the truth of the social construction of free will and how it being counter to how reality affects our world sets the stage for tragedy. A dangerous element of free will is that it causes societies to rationalize torture, punishment, confinement, and abuse of our fellow human beings. One must have rationally chosen the possibility of those repercussions and whatever they did to deserve them. Addictions demonstrate that the reality of our functioning includes internal and subconscious influencers which dictate behavior. Common among those with expressed addictions are similar experiences and environments because these are the variables that contribute to the equation of us. The experiences of treatment and the repercussions of addiction add new variables to the equation. Conversely, free will is leaving the variables the same and expecting the equation to change for mere want. Tune in to the next episode as we explore that action which has been accepted as conventional wisdom as obviously effective, yet is so obviously not effective: punishment. I am not saying that I represent a lot of people, but what I am saying is that threatening me with violence is about the least effective way to obtain my consent. How many of you are agreeing with me as I say that? We will discuss that on the next episode of Crimes and Punishments in the 21st Century.